So Sandro Tonali is one of the best CDMs in the world right now, currently plying his trade in the EPL. The young Italian playmaker has been compared to legends like Andrea Pirlo and Genaro Gattuso, his compatriots and World Cup winners, as well as AC Milan legends in their own right. Today we're making a technical analysis. We want to see and break down the young Italian's game.
But here's Gordon.
So these numbers are from the 2022-2023 season. Tonali doesn't make a lot of shots on goal, but when he does, he's more accurate than the likes of Jude Bellingham. Even as the preferred dead ball specialist, he still needs better conversion for better numbers there. So we're going to be considering Tonali's goal scoring capabilities throughout the course of his whole career. You're going to find that Tonali, besides being a dead ball specialist, he does have some of those goals. He does go in open play. So as you see in these clips here, you're going to find that Tonali actually makes a lot of finishes just in no man's land in the golden area there in the box, whether it's sneaking in behind the defense like you see in this clip, or if it's more of him finding space and making an attempt on goal, making a shot there as you see in this clip too. Tonali actually exudes a lot of confidence. Like if you see in his debut goal for Newcastle there, he went in straight down the middle, attacking the ball, power finish, just placement. You'd have to see that. That's the confidence. I think it's even the confidence you expect in a striker. Also, I want to point out his ability to run in from deep, like you see in the current clip, comes through placement, finishes. There you see again, testament to his physical strength, pressuring the defender, going up against the keeper and picking his spot. Like if you see, it's not the power in the shot, but it's the placement. In terms of technique, he's confident, he's massive. So like we said before, we're going to be comparing the young Italian to some of the greats who've played the game. And one of his comparisons is to Andrea Pirlo. Now, if we look at Pirlo's technical ability, he was a truly gifted striker of the ball. He could hit from distance, right-footed, he picked his spots, and even through defenses, he was one of those people who evaded like the blocks. He'd give the ball a height, he'd give it placement. He truly made it effortless. Like even the biomechanics, you can see Pirlo is one of those guys, he would slink back. I think the beauty of Pirlo's strikes where you couldn't really see the effort he put, but the power that would be in the ball. It's essentially an art form when you see Andrea Pirlo make these hits like in the middle of the game. So I think comparing Pirlo in the last 2 years at Juve, which saw him participate in the Champions League, to Tonali's campaign up until 2023 with Milan, you find that in those seasons, Pirlo had more goals, he had more shots on target. So the data isn't really conclusive on set pieces or the distance, shooting distance and that sort of thing. But you do see, generally even from the eye test, a budding Tonali wasn't really the same level as a mature Pirlo. Now to give a fair assessment, we're going to be having an eye test on Tonali's belters. Now if we're going to be taking a look at this aspect of Tonali's game, you're going to find that he's also very good on his right foot. He also hits a lot of belters, but you see that there's a lot more effort in terms of him conveying the power in those strikes. What does stand out though is his ability to go onto his left weaker foot and still project a lot of power there. This isn't something you'd see much of in Andrea Pirlo's game back in the day. But definitely in terms of accuracy, Andrea Pirlo is still ranked far much better than the prodigy Tonali. He just has to improve and work on the technique. Actually, you can see that Tonali's potential to improve is very high. You see that compared to Pirlo at the same age, Tonali had a lot more game time. Although he was a bit on the lower end in terms of actual goals converted, he actually had more shots on target. We don't have any other data, much data to go on for this time since there wasn't such an emphasis on stats back then. But clearly you can see that Tonali is worth his salt. In time, he'll get there. Guys, as a side note, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. It does help the channel grow. Another area of comparison is on set piece strikes. Now, Pirlo's had a longer career and I think he aged like fine wine over this aspect. Like again, his placement, his power, giving the ball elevation over the wall, giving it direction as to exactly where he wants to go, beating the keeper. Actually, Pirlo scored most of those goals at the very highest level in Serie A as well as in the Champions League, even in the World Cup. You'd find that he beat goalkeepers who are very fast, who are agile, who are responsive. Even more interestingly, these strikes would be either side of the pitch, centrally, varying distances. Pirlo's technique left even the best goalkeepers in the world without a chance. If you look at this clip here, the keeper sees the ball and comes back. Just the pace on the ball beats him. And if you see the distance from which some of these strikes are made, it's far out. You think that the keeper has enough time. Technique and power, I believe Pirlo still deserves to be king here. So in terms of set piece abilities, I think Tonali actually measures up to the Pirlo standard. You see that he hits them mostly as inside curlers, inside of his right foot, gives them elevation, power, and it's the biomechanics of it. You see that most of the effort is directed towards giving the ball its exact pinpoint placement and aesthetic role, so to speak. Tonali also has those slightly less varied strikes which depend more on power with a dose of curl, but also has those he can hit which go straight down the middle, like you can see in the footage here. It does it to create a maximum effect. I believe over the long term he's going to be even better. I think he's actually comparable to a young Pirlo himself. You take a look at some of the footage here, you guys can compare for yourself. In the long term, I think they are both 9 out of 9s and will rank well. So in terms of his open play assisting, you're going to find that Tonali moves a lot with the attackers, moves up high, up the pitch in the final third. You find him pressing, you find him making those passes, those little flicks like that on there you see. A key aspect of Tonali's game that you're going to see is his physical strength. You see him there winning the ball in the middle of the park and making that assist, following on the attackers, but he can lie deep, win the ball, and be the difference. Can also, you see in the final third, you see him there making the run into the penalty box. Again, the intelligence he has to make the right pass, those little dinks, those little flicks into the penalty area. He also does those little passes on the ground, which Pirlo also sometimes employs, and it's to great effect. You also see, but what he's mostly famous for is those in-swinging crosses off his right foot. There, you see him again, making another one. See him there, picking out his main perfectly weighted ball into the right space there again. It's actually a trademark that he's known for and executes well on. That little pass, perfectly weighted. I think Tonali's assist numbers would be quite better if he had quality forwards to work with. I think Andrea Pirlo is a master. Even when leaving a ball, he's able to assist and have vision and distract defenders. If it's the trademark chip that Tonali's been on, clearly one of the templates has been Andrea Pirlo. Pirlo's 2006 semi-final assist against Germany is one of the most intelligent. The vision, the ability to draw defenders, it's impeccable. In Serie A, that's my favorite assist. Pirlo has that ability to give a pass the weight it requires, and it's unbelievable actually in open play. Under pressure, he plays so smoothly. He doesn't seem to have that rush about him. He's got that composure. He's like that clock behind the team, as most people would like to say. The closest performance I've seen by Tonali was against Villa in his debut match. Over time, he can get to this level. So we've already established that Tonali is good at dead balls. So if we take a look at him, his techniques, whether it's set pieces infield or it's set pieces corner kicks, he's good. You see that there he does an in-swinging one off his right foot. He also has the ability to do out-swinging ones off his right foot again, and the conversions. If you have good strikers, good people in the air, he executes quite well. I'm also a fan of his intelligence. There you see he plays a short one, then he does the in-swinger later on, distracts the defense, is able to pick the striker. He generally has the high IQ of a CDM that you need, especially in those set-piece taking positions. So Tonali's stats in this aspect of his game are very good. Like if you compare him to some of the best midfielders in Europe, you can clearly see that he comes out on top hands down. From the eye test, to make a comparison to the likes of Pirlo, you'd see that it does stack up. It's only a pity that we don't have the full records of Pirlo striking the ball from his earlier days to do a statistical analysis, or just a complete one. But I think generally strikers who've played with him, like the likes of Balotelli and Leao, will tell you of the advantage of having him being the dead ball striker in your team. It works well for players with great aerial presence. So we're now going to take a look at Pirlo's masterclass in striking these balls. Also, he does those in-swingers, picks out strikers, there really isn't much to differentiate between Andrea Pirlo and Tonali, even at this early stage in the young Italian's game. The slight nuance that might be there is that both might favor in-swingers, but Tonali sometimes does employ out-swingers, and that Pirlo also seems to have a different set of corner kick strike techniques, as you saw in his later day in the MLS, experimenting more. In terms of numbers though, I believe Tonali will reach the same level and consistently deliver over his career. Another key aspect of Tonali's game is his long passing. You see there, his switches of play, they're intelligent, they progress the attack, they're most of the time unanticipated, they are timed to perfection. I think that's the most critical thing. They are forward. Look at that beauty there. It just takes out the whole straight line of defense and gives Newcastle the edge. In this clip you see Tonali making a pass that's not the assist, but that's critical to the assist itself. With just one touch, he can turn from defense to offense, transition without even needing to progress much himself. It's all about position for him. It's all about the vision. It's all about picking out the right option. It doesn't always go correct. Like if you saw with the stats that we highlighted a bit earlier with his passing, he actually ranks just up there with the elite guys, but sometimes you could say that he actually plays less passes. The interesting thing is, even with less passes and the accuracy which doesn't really stand out from everyone, he still has the highest number of assists. Well, if you're going to be looking at Pirlo's assist game or his long passing game, you're going to see that the technique is immaculate. Like if you look at him, he doesn't seem to be putting too much effort. He swings off his right foot. Those loopy directed balls, he can do that in transition to attack, like in that clip, in the full swing of play, or you can do it when he's actually playing at a slower tempo and has more time. I think what's commendable about Pirlo is that for the most part he will do this press resisting. It's like his awareness of where people are, and if you look at that, the accuracy considering it, 2 markers on him. So the 3 Italians share the ability to beat the press with the long ball. Here and there they'll have an odd miscue like this one, but for the most part they pull it off quite well. I think the other nice ability is the passing range that Pirlo has, even if it's ground balls, as you see there. I believe he's got a greater skill set in that area. I think Pirlo wins it on being able to pull off these long balls still with his left weaker foot. By experience, Pirlo is king. So the next aspect we're looking at is how these midfielders distribute the ball. As you see in these clips, Tonali can be able to dictate the play, slow things down, just make those short passes, beat the press. He dictates the pace of the game. Sometimes his passing lets him down, he loses possession, but for the most part he's great at maintaining possession and progressing the attack. Usually from those one touches, it turns into from defensive or just passive state to a proper offensive situation. You can play up there in that final attacking third, or you can build up from the back, as you see in this clip, just progressing, turning his passive state to attack. There in the attack phase, you see he becomes a cog, building up and creating opportunities. I think Tonali actually has the versatility of being an attacking midfielder if need be. Now, if we take a look at the more seasoned Pirlo, you're going to see a bit more calm, a bit more composure. You're going to see the ability to beat the press more. He's more comfortable playing the back pass. He's more comfortable leaving those passes like a pass without touching the ball. He's able to receive the ball under pressure, not progress too much, just pick the best passing option, opens up those passing lanes. He doesn't spend too much time off the ball. I think he's more mature than Tonali in this capacity. I think it all comes down to experience. But in terms of his quality, Tonali still ranks very close to the maestro there. Over time, I believe he'll reach those levels. Now, Pirlo's dribbling is elegant. It's also very efficient and classy at the same time. It serves a purpose. If you look at these clips, you're going to see him doing those not too elaborate but still effective dribbles. He's not a physical person. You don't see him break a sweat. You see it's all thought through, nothing which gives him too much contact with the opposition or sees him spending too much time on the ball. He makes it look so effortless. You'll be like, yeah, this guy isn't even breaking his sweat doing this, but it all serves a purpose. So for the most part, Andrea Pirlo dribbles at such a slow pace, like he does it. It makes it look so effortless, yet it's intricate in its own way. It's efficient, he covers ground, and he actually poses a great threat to defense. So Tonali is more of a beefy defender. He still does it beautifully, but you see more of an element of his strength coming in. He dribbles more on the athletic side, like you'd find with Manchester United's Højlund. I think maybe it's more of a young man's game in that aspect, where you see a lot more physical exertion in how he dribbles. You find that he progresses the ball most of the time, depending on his physicality, to shield players, like hold them off literally and do little creative shuffles between both his feet. Is quite effective. I think when you've made the comparison with Højlund, you might find that actually he could be an improvised striker to an extent, considering his sight for goal and his accuracy when he makes attempts on goal. I think Tonali doesn't have the same level of creativity and flashiness or showboating as Pirlo had, though he does show a few streaks here and there, but he's not at that same level. So if you're looking at Tonali's play, he's able to make those runs from deep and actually be up there with the attack, with the strikers themselves, getting goals like you see in that clip. Also, he builds like from the middle of the park. You see him make that transition from dispossessing the Napoli players and actually forming part of an assist. Even when it's utilizing the opportunity that the team has when they've pressed, Tonali participates extensively in forming that into assists. Look at Sandro's defensive game. So for the most part, he comes out tops on the number of tackles he makes in his defensive third. He does make a decent amount of interception and blocks, but it still comes up short of the likes of Bellingham and Declan Rice. So you're going to see that a key component of Tonali's interception game is positional awareness. To an extent, this is very similar to how Pirlo plays his game. He knows where to be in the right place, doesn't break too much of a sweat, and breaks up opposition's attack. He's able to also coolly transition the team out of defensive pickles and turn it into offense, as we've already covered. I think I also like to consider some of these tackles / interceptions. For me, it's because he usually comes in from a blind side and he kind of semi-stops a pass. I believe his interceptions will be key for any team that is Tonali on the pitch. You're going to find that Pirlo doesn't really make a lot of physical tackles. Does tackle here and there, but for most purposes, I'm going to show you his positional awareness. So Pirlo's strong suit is keeping cool under pressure and playing the right pass to release pressure, even if it's a back pass, and defensive capacity. He makes small clean tackles. They are incisive, he rarely draws fouls, and he usually gets up even to dribble out and create space for himself. The next aspect of defensive play we'll take a look at is tackling ability. Tonali also puts a lot of vigor and physicality into his tackles, like there, as you see in that clip. For the most part, to his credit, I believe that we can say to an extent he is accurate, though he draws a considerable amount of fouls. He used a lot of body checks, and he would have probably gotten away with it in the olden days. Today the game's less physical, you draw more fouls. Now, a hard tackler Tonali was compared to was Genaro Gattuso. Not only his tackling, but his play, but here we're going to be focusing on the challenges. Gattuso was a very physical player, known for his hard crunching tackles. They were timely, they were accurate. Tonali shows streaks of this, but we have to still say the level of aggression demonstrated by Gattuso, it's what was permissible back in the day. You remember his duels with the likes of Edgar Davies in the center of the park. Those are the days where they'd play the likes of Roy Keane. Gennaro belonged to the times where tough tackles won games. Tonali's approach in today's game is a bit more of a measured approach. The next aspect to look at is his ball shielding capabilities. Tonali has very good ball retention statistics. He doesn't easily get knocked off the ball, and instead he actually bullies midfielders and strikers off the ball a lot. He rides tackles well, but the key feature in his game is that body check. He body checks people like regularly. Most strikers are always left trying to appeal for fouls, but most of the macho referees let it go. I think especially in the Serie A, where I believe the league is more tolerant than in the EPO, he excelled quite a lot. His physicality proved to be the mainstay for the Italian giants on a number of conditions. He dominated the midfield ahead of midfielders like Nico Barella. I believe Tonali is going to improve this aspect of his game over time as he grows in age as well as physical strength. He still loses out at times these days. So Tonali did mention that he likes to play along the lines of how Genaro Gattuso plays. You see this clearly in how he shields the ball. Gattuso would literally put himself between the ball and the striker. Some of the most fierce strikers like the Rooney's back in the day, or the Militos. Also, you find that even in those positions where he's supposed to be cornered, he comes out. I've also seen Tonali do a bit of ball juggling. I think I showed a clip where he was doing that. I didn't include all of those, but he also does that. Generally, I think Serie A makes that requirement, that physical requirement on players because it's generally a more stronger league in terms of its physical demands on players. You find that I think the refereeing was and is still a bit more tolerant of people or players being able to shield balls, muscle each other off. And I believe that as a mentor, or as a figure that Tonali looked up to more, it's something that he was very much willing to embrace in his game. I think we're going to see a lot more of this aspect of Tonali's play, in terms of his shielding and physicality, even intensity and passion that he showed in the Serie A. A stats analysis from when the three players were roughly the same age, you see the level of aggression Tonali clearly also has. Well, here we're more of comparing personality, and clearly if you want to take a look at Gattuso back in the day, Gattuso was pretty much known for, let's say in the summary of his career, of being aggressive, being passionate. So Gattuso would go head to head with the coaches, he'd go head to head with the players, like on the pitch itself. He was known for those mind games. He was known to be, actually he was an ironical captain because he'd be starting situations instead of diffusing them. You're actually going to see that Tonali has also been compared to this side of Gattuso's game, and he isn't afraid to really get into the thick of disputes. But I do find that he's a bit more measured in how he interacts. He's more of a reactionary than an instigator, but he doesn't shy away from the fight. I guess that's the Italian flair in them, that element of huncho, or element of fire, I guess. It's unfortunate we haven't seen much of it in the EPL, and we are not going to get much of a chance considering his ban that's been meted out, but clearly he stands up for himself as well as his teammates when necessary. Well, Tonali is clearly proven to be a fan favorite amongst the Newcastle faithful. He's been shown a lot of love by the fans in light of his recent betting allegations and 10-month suspension. Now the question is, will Tonali be able to maintain his sharpness coming back to the EPL next season? The young Italian has shown so much potential, and I believe he can really be a generational talent. I hope Eddie Howe and team keep him primed up and we see him back next season. So that's it from us at Nuance Sports, guys. Please like, share and subscribe.